We're back, guys, with Bunnicula tonight, and we're going to read one chapter. That chapter is called A Cat Prepares. And as you might recall from yesterday, the bunny, Bunnicula, had gotten out of his cage, or so Chester says, in the middle of the night without opening the door. And then the next morning, the family finds a white tomato in their refrigerator that's totally dry, and they can't figure out why. Now, Chester's really suspicious. He really wants to figure out what's going on. Harold, on the other hand, is just bored because nobody's paying attention to him anymore. And he thinks this is sort of amusing, but basically he's just trying to be entertained. He's not as concerned as Chester, at least not yet. And let's find out what Chester's up to in chapter 4. I almost didn't make it to my meeting with Chester that night. Toby had a feast in his room. It was Friday night, and on Friday nights, Toby gets to stay up and read as late as he wants to. So, of course, he needs lots of food to keep up his strength. Good food like cheese crackers, chocolate cupcakes, my very favorite, the kind with cream in the middle, pretzels, and peanut butter sandwiches. The last I cannot abide because my mouth always gets stuck. Chocolate cupcakes with cream in the center, however, is another story. This particular evening, I stationed myself on Toby's stomach. Usually, I'm a little more subtle. But having missed out on the bacon for breakfast, I was not about to take any chances on the chocolate cupcakes with cream in the center. Toby knew what I was after, but sometimes he thinks it's funny and he plays little games with me. Hi, Harold. I'd bet you'd like a peanut butter sandwich, wouldn't you? Here, you have this one that's left over from yesterday while I eat this boring old chocolate cupcake, which is nice and fresh and has cream in the middle. Okay, Harold? Ha ha, my sides are splitting. What's the matter? Don't you want a peanut butter sandwich? All right, I'll put it away for another night. Oh, here's something you might like. It's a green sour ball from Dad's candy dish that is stuck to my sock. Would you like that, old pal? Oh boy, this kid is really hot tonight. No, huh? Well, I'd give you one of my cupcakes, but I know how much you hate chocolate. Would a little drooling on your stomach help convince you otherwise? Oh, you like chocolate? Okay, then you can have them both. One thing I have to say about Toby, although he's got a rotten sense of humor, he's a nice kid. Naturally, once I'd eaten both cupcakes, which took approximately 4 seconds, I felt obliged to hang around and let Toby know I was grateful. What better way than to share a few of his cheese crackers? Well, Harold, Toby said some time later, we've had quite a party, but now I have to go to sleep. I can't keep my eyes open, so I have to wait until tomorrow to find out what happens in the next chapter. This is a good book, Harold. It's called Treasure Island. It's by a man called Robert Louis Stevenson. It's kind of hard reading, though. I have to keep looking up the big words in the dictionary, so it's taking me a long time to get through it, although I do appreciate that he is figuring out what the vocabulary words in his book mean. I've always had trouble with words myself. Half the time, they don't mean what I think they're going to mean, and then, even when I do find out what they mean, I forget the next day anyway. You might say that I'm smart, but just not the scholarly type. But it's a really good story, Toby continued. It's about pirates and this little boy, just like me. No dogs? And a parrot, Harold. A parrot? What's a parrot? Is there anything about chocolate cake? That's my idea of a treasure. Well, good night, Harold. If you're going to sleep here, you'll have to get off my stomach because it's getting a little full now. Good night, Toby. I curled up at the foot of the bed, but I couldn't sleep trying to figure out what a parrot was. I thought it might be a lady pirate, since the words sounded something alike, but then again, I thought that it might be an umbrella. Chester would know that, I thought, so I went downstairs to ask him. Well, you certainly took your time, Chester snapped as I sauntered casually into the room. I finished my book a half hour ago. Where were you? It so happens I was discussing great works of literature with Toby. Since when is a Twinkie wrapper considered a great work of literature? I decided to ignore that. Unfortunately, several chocolate crumbs fell from my mouth onto the floor at precisely that moment. As a matter of fact, I said, trying valiantly to regain my dignity, we were talking about Treasure Island. Ever hear of it? Ever hear of it, he sneered. I read that when I was a kitten. Oh, then tell me, Chester, what is a parrot? Chester looked at me scornfully. A parrot, he said, is a tropical, oh man, this is a hard word, zygodactyl bird, order, sit, I cannot pronounce this, Psittaciformes, probably Sictiformis. I don't know, that's my best shot. That's the scientific name for that bird. That has a stout, curved, hooked bill. It's often crested, brightly colored, and an excellent mimic. In other words, Harold, a parrot is a little bird with a big mouth. Oh, I said after a moment. I thought maybe it was an umbrella. Did you get so busy discussing parrots with Toby that you forgot that you were going to meet me here? This is important, Harold. I still wasn't sure what a parrot was, but I decided that this was not the time to pursue it. Come over here, Chester commanded, indicating his chair, and let me show you this book. I looked at the chair. Chester was already sitting in it, with a very large book open in front of him. I don't think that there's going to be room for both of us, Chester. Come on, you're wasting time. Just jump up here. I surveyed the scene carefully. I knew I'd have to get a running start since there was just a tiny spot left for me, and I would never be able to fit into it if I pulled myself up slowly. Apparently, I was taking too long for Chester's liking. Will you get up here, he hissed. Okay, if that's what you want. I ran and jumped onto the chair, landing with a great kerplop. Chester, where are you? I cried. Couldn't see anything but the back of the chair. I'd forgotten to turn myself around. I'm here, you great oaf. I turned my head. What are you doing on the floor? I asked. You knocked me off the chair. Now just stay put. I'm coming back up. I moved to the back of the chair, and Chester landed on the front. Now let's see, he said. We both have to see the book. You come over here, and I'll move this way. I don't know if you've ever watched a cat try to decide where to sit, but it involves a lot of circling around, sitting, getting up again, circling some more, thinking about it, lying down, standing up, bathing a paw or tail, and circling. The dog, on the other hand, sits. This looks like a good spot, the dog will say to himself. He will then lower his body to the spot in question and usually is so secure in his decision that he will fall asleep immediately. Chester took what felt like 20 minutes to settle himself in, and just as I was drifting off, the kick started. Come on, Harold, quit hogging the seat and wake up. What are you trying to do? Take a little cat nap? I yawned. Now, Chester said, turning the book, let's get down to brass tacks. What exactly is on your mind? I asked. This book and that rabbit, Chester replied. Now tell me, Harold, have you noticed anything funny about that rabbit? No, I said, but I've certainly noticed a lot of funny things about you recently. Think about it. That rabbit sleeps all day. So do I. So do you. Furthermore, he's got a funny little sharp teeth. So do I. So do you. Furthermore, he gets in and out of his cage by himself. What kind of rabbit can do that? A smart one, I said. I could do it. We're not talking about you, Harold. We're talking about the rabbit. Now, where did they find him? At the movies. Yes, but what movie? Dracula, I said. So? So, he said quickly. Remember the note around his neck? What language was it in? An obscure dialect of the Carpathian mountain region, I answered smugly. He didn't know everything. Aha, Chester said. But what area of the Carpathian mountain region? Area? What's an area? I looked at him blankly. Transylvania, he replied triumphantly, and that proves my point. What point? What are we talking about? And don't forget the white tomato. That's most important of all. But what? This book, said Chester, disregarding me, tells us just what we need to do. What? I practically screamed. What does it tell us? What does this book have to do with Bunnicula? What are you talking about? What's going on here? I can't stand it anymore. Chester regarded me coolly. You're really excitable, Harold. That's not good for your blood pressure. I put my paws around his throat. Tell me, I said in a low, threatening voice, or I'll squeeze you till you pop. Okay, don't get upset. Now, this book tells you everything you've always wanted to know about vampires but were afraid to ask. Personally, I had never wanted to know anything about vampires, but at this moment, I was afraid to tell that to Chester. I still don't understand what vampires have to do with our furry little friend. 1, Chester said, vampires do not sleep at night. They sleep only during the day. The same holds true for this rabbit. 2, vampires can get in and out of locked rooms. Bunnicula gets in and out of his locked cage. This was beginning to interest me. Didn't you say something about the refrigerator? That's right. He got the refrigerator open all by himself. 3, vampires have long, pointed teeth. They're called fangs. Well, don't we have fangs? No, we have canines. That's different. What's different about it? Fangs are more pointed, and vampires use fangs to bite people in the neck. Yuck. Who'd want to do that? Vampires would, that's who. Wait a minute. I saw Mrs. Monroe bite Mr. Monroe on the neck once. Does that mean she's a vampire? Boy, are you dumb? She's not a vampire. She's a lawyer. She bites necks. I don't think that's quite the same. Now, Bunnicula does not bite people on the neck, at least not so far, but he does bite vegetables. On the neck? I asked. Vegetables don't have necks, Harold. Vegetables are like that. It's like dogs. Dogs don't have brains. Dogs are like that. Oh, yeah, I said. Of course he bites vegetables. All rabbits bite vegetables. He bites them, Harold, but he does not eat them. That tomato was all white. What does that mean? It means that he paints vegetables, I ventured. It means that he bites vegetables to make holes in them and then sucks out all the juices. But what about all the lettuce and carrots that Toby'd been feeding him in the cage? Aha, what indeed, Chester said. Look at this. Whereupon he stuck his paw under the chair cushions and brought out, with a flourish, an assortment of strange white objects. Some of them looked like unironed handkerchiefs, and the others, well, they didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. What are they? I asked. Chester smiled. Lettuce and carrots. He said, white lettuce and carrots. I found them hidden behind his cage. I was aghast. What did it all mean? Could Chester be right? Was this harmless-looking little ball of fur really a vampire? Just then Chester let out a yelp. Look, he said. The cage was empty again. Oh, we're fools, we've let him get out of our sight. It's your fault. My fault? You're the one who took 20 minutes to sit down. Well, if you didn't knock me off the chair in the first place. Wait a minute, why are we arguing? Let's find Bunnicula. Just then, we heard a click in the kitchen. Refrigerator, I whispered. Chester nodded. We jumped down and moved cautiously to the kitchen door. Shh, Chester warned unnecessarily as we crept along. Don't make any noise. We don't want him to hear us coming. Obviously, I retorted. The light went on under the door. He must have closed the refrigerator. Oh, I'm sorry, the light went out under the door. He must have closed the refrigerator, Chester said. Easy now. We pushed the door open. The kitchen was dark. There was not a sound. Psst! Chester! What? I can't see. I can, but I can't see him. He's not here. There was a soft scamper across the linoleum, and we turned just in time to see a little white tail bounce out the door into the living room. Drat, we've missed him. Come on, Harold, let's see if we can catch up with him. Chester started toward the door. Wait, Chester, what's that on the floor by the refrigerator? He turned. This new object interested him more than following Bunnicula. Watch out, he said. I'll take care of this. He slunk across the room slowly, muscles taut, eyes alert. When he was about 6 inches away, he stuck out his paw, closed his eyes, and batted the object tentatively. I don't think he made any contact. Get closer, I said. Chester's eyes popped open. Who's the cat here? He asked. I know what I'm doing. And he proceeded to bat the air 3 more times. What is it? I squealed, as my throat contracted in fear. I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's not alive. Oh boy. If I wait for you, we're going to be here all night. I walked bravely to the object and sniffed it. Well, said Chester. Beats me. Chester came closer. After a moment of close examination, he gasped. I jumped. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Harold, Chester blurted. What? What? It's... Yes, it's... What is it, Chester? It's a white zucchini. And there's a picture of Chester with the white zucchini. And that's the end for tonight. So we have more evidence that perhaps Bunnicula is a vampire. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. All right. Let's talk about this in the comment section of our Google Classroom.